Joining us now, we have Representative Morgan Griffith, is serving his maiden term in the United States House of Representatives, where he proudly represents the 9th Congressional District in Virginia. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be with you.
Now, Congressman, why don't we go right to politics if we can. In the state of Virginia, we've got a number of surveys that have come out that have shown that it appears that President Obama is gaining in Virginia. He has a lead now, depending on this survey, between 5 or 6. Same survey came out, one did the other day, by the Washington Post, saying that former Governor Tim Kaine also has a lead now, a slight lead over former Governor George Allen, the battle of the Titans that could determine who controls the U.S. Senate in the United States. What is your take, Congressman, on the campaigns right now in the Commonwealth?
Well, there's certainly a lot of time left. We have about 45 days until the election. And, the poll that counts is the one on Election Day. I'm a big believer in that, and that's why 2 years ago I campaigned right until 7 o'clock when the polls closed, because at this point in the campaign, I was 18 points down. But the voters tend to pay attention to issues, and I think that we're going to see folks realize that, it hasn't been a good 4 years, and even with the argument that Obama inherited a bad situation, I think people will realize that the situation hasn't gotten better, and in fact it's gotten worse. And that, no matter how well-meaning his policies were, they've been devastating to our economy, particularly in Southwest Virginia, which ultimately will put pressure on the rest of the state, because we've lost thousands of jobs in just the last couple of weeks in the coal fields in particular. What that does is when they're not mining the coal, then there's no coal severance tax to help those localities out there pay for their schools. You don't have that. You also don't have the manufacturers who make the conveyor belts, who make the equipment, who supply the breathing apparatus that they have to use in case there's an emergency. All of those sales stop. They start laying people off, as they have already started to do, and it's just a terrible ripple effect, and it's all being brought about, in part, in large part, by the regulations brought about by the Obama administration.
Now, Congressman, there was an editorial in the Virginian Pilot that I saw that basically said, well, the problem with mining coal in Virginia is not the Obama regulatory agencies, the EPA. It's a matter of natural gas is cheaper, and so it's just a bad economic proposition. And the editorial basically went on to absolve the Obama administration and their anti-coal regulations as playing any piece of it. Yet one of the CEOs of the biggest coal companies in the area was saying the opposite. How can the pilot say one thing and the CEO say the other thing?
Well, there's a little truth that natural gas is competitive right now because it's so cheap. There's no question about that. However, a lot of the utility companies and a lot of other folks are switching over to natural gas if they can because of the war on coal. It's not just the price of natural gas. It's the fact that it's more expensive to dig the coal because of unreasonable regulations. It's more expensive to use the coal because of unreasonable regulations. And in some cases, it's just downright impossible to meet the regulations that the EPA has proposed. And so, businesses are saying, even if we invest the money for coal, we're not going to be able to use it, so why invest the money? The same analogy could be used towards wind. Wind is not competitive. Solar is not competitive. So why are they around? Well, because of government policies. And, right now they're not competitive. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't look at those as possible fuels for the future. But if the only test is competitiveness, get the government out of the way, coal will do just fine.
Would it be safe to conclude that this is another situation where the Obama administration is attempting to pick winners and losers in the economy themselves?
Well, they're not only picking winners and losers in the economy. In this case, they want to take and make coal virtually illegal, particularly for any kind of heat or energy purposes. And what's amazing is yesterday Ed Markey said that the Republicans were the party of coal, and that it was like, betting on or sticking with the horse and carriage instead of moving on to automobiles. The problem is that they didn't outlaw the horses when cars started coming along. Sure, natural gas has its place. Wind and solar have their place. But let's not outlaw something that has been the cheapest producer of BTUs historically in this country and in the world. And interestingly, the rest of the world is using more and more coal. Coal usage worldwide is up while it's down in the United States.
If we could shift over a minute to Attorney General Eric Holder, Congressman, you also serve, along with being on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, you also serve on the Oversight and Investigations Subcommittee. The new report that came out on Fast and Furious, on the surface, it looks like it's absolving Eric Holder of any wrongdoing. Is that a fair interpretation?
Well, I do serve on Oversight and Investigations for Energy and Commerce. That's not the same oversight. It gets confusing that does the Fast and Furious. But I would have to say, based on what I have seen of Fast and Furious, Eric Holder's not absolved of wrongdoing. That may not be criminal wrongdoing, but he's not absolved of wrongdoing because he came to Congress and didn't give us accurate information. If his people didn't give him accurate information, then, it's one of those deals where he's the boss. He should have known, and he should have known a lot faster, and Congress should not have been misdirected on that investigation.
Do you see this becoming a campaign issue now, or do you think pretty much it isn't going to get resolved until after we decide who wins?
Well, it's a campaign issue in the sense that if you want an administration in Washington that turns a blind eye to sloppy work, or maybe worse, then, you're fine with the current administration. But this administration continues to just have really bad performance on a number of different fronts. You've got that Fast and Furious, you've got Solyndra, where, even if people were meaning well, they just didn't get the job done. Same thing with the economy. They keep telling us, well, if we do this, we'll fix it. Well, they had 2 years where they got to do everything they wanted to, and it didn't fix.
It's definitely the issue. If we can go to the Middle East a second, it's now become evident that when the administration first made comment on the fact that our ambassador to Libya and 3 of his aides got assassinated, they were basically putting out information that this was a spontaneous uprising that had to do with the cartoon video that was put on the internet. Now it seems like this was a coordinated effort. Senator McCain on Thursday was pretty adamant in saying that Al-Qaeda or other Islamic extremists were were involved in it, that it was well planned out. Why did it take the administration basically a week to come clean on what actually happened?
Again, I think it's an administration that has a lot of folks who may mean well, but who just aren't getting the job done. I don't think they knew what happened. Now, part of it is it's a very confusing part of the world, and so I don't want to say that it's something that they easily could have seen. But why we had an ambassador in an area that wasn't protected on 9/11, why we didn't anticipate that there were going to be some problems on 9/11 is just beyond me. And it seems that for whatever reason, the ship of state is adrift, and we need to bring some clarity into the various offices. And the person who does that is the president, by picking people around him. And when you look at Mitt Romney, he's picked good people to be around him. Paul Ryan knows the budget better than anybody else. He knows how to fix the budget without breaking the country. I think Mitt Romney's going to put a lot of really good people around him. The current president has not done that. And as a result of that, we suffer on all kinds of fronts, whether it be energy, whether it be Fast and Furious, whether it be our foreign policy.
There's been a lot of talk, Congressman, that there's some Republicans in the House, in the Senate, that are now wringing their hands over the Romney campaign. A lot of fingers pointing each way. Some of the fallout coming from the videotape that surfaced the other day, where the governor of Massachusetts alluded to the 47%. I mean, you're pretty much in that whole group where you're able to hear two sides of it. Do you think that the Romney campaign has to make a serious change, or do you think that they're on the right track now in order to potentially turn the corner?
Well, I think they're pretty much on the right track. You get these little blips. I know what the president, what Governor Romney was trying to say. He didn't say it as articulately. You know, you spend 12 to 15 hours a day out campaigning. You're at a fundraising event. His words were not perhaps the best, but what he was trying to say was you're never going to win 100% of the vote. And as far as the vote is concerned, not the individual people,
right?
You have to be concerned about those that, you have an opportunity to get to vote for you. So, it may not have been the best choice of words, but I think he's on the right track. And, he has a proven record. What's so amazing, and sometimes the voters, fall for it. But when you look at somebody's record over the course of a lifetime, and you see efficiency, you see bringing about, better governance of companies, of the Olympics, etc., versus you take a look at the record of the last 4 years, and, there's not much record before that for President Obama, but take a look at his whole record. You don't see that same kind of, ability to make decisions and make things work. And in all fairness, the wheels are coming off the country in many ways, foreign policy, energy, etc., and the president, I don't think, really knows how to solve those problems. Mitt Romney does.
Congressman, if you had one word of advice for Governor Romney right now as he enters the final, basically 6 weeks of the campaign, what would it be?
Well, I would have to say to him, get the materials out to the grassroots. We've got a lot of folks who want to put signs in their yards and that kind of thing. They're working on the big picture, and I understand that. We got a lot of great volunteers out there who want more material so they can tell their friends and neighbors where they stand and convince them that they ought to be voting for Romney, too. I'd say get more materials to the grassroots, and the people will carry you home.
Congressman, we want to thank you for your time, and we appreciate your joining us today. Good luck on your own campaign trail. If people want more information on your re-election campaign, Congressman, where do they go?
They can go to MorganGriffithforCongress.com.